You're back with me, your host, called The Seeker. One of the things that we've never really kind of delved into is this whole thing around the culture wars. In fact, it's a term, even though it's been around for a while and it's been in that space of something that goes backwards and forwards in terms of the kind of discussions that we have in the mainstream, especially over the last couple of years, especially with the uprisings and the protests. It's never a term that I've used, and it's a term that I don't use. And I'm going to be very specific as to why. The problem with using a term like that is that it allows for a certain amount of freedom, and then it allows for a certain level of confinement and harm. Here's the thing, whenever you denote something as war, first of all, you're talking about extreme conflict. You're talking about something where there is right and there is wrong, depending on whatever your perspective is. And within a war, the people who are seen to, quote unquote, lose the war get punished. And also within wars, there are winners and losers. And we've seen this play out in a multitude of arenas, even in the last 4, 5, 6 years. And when you get into this place of we're going to label people a certain particular way, we're going to look at them a certain way, whether it's we're using imagery of brown faces and talking about swarms at the border, or in discussing issues around European Union membership, we're using non-European faces to represent the danger of having larger levels of integration within the nation. And this whole thing of cultural wars is a very nice talking point for those who have the freedom to have that talking point. But if you are a person whose existence, whose face, whose body represents the thing that is the threat to other people within these culture wars, then you are the personification of the perceived harm that is coming to them. And in situations where people perceive harm, they will many times, as we have seen, do harm to those who they think by their mere presence and their mere existence are harmful to them. So this idea of culture wars is a very easy thing for people to talk about if you're in that circle where it's just a conversation. But for those people who, one way or the other, feel threatened because they feel like something is being taken away from them, and your face and your body is the personification of that harm, that threat, that loss, that perceived oppression, because they're losing something, then in a situation where there is a possibility for that retaliation, you then become the target for that retaliation. And we know that's happened because we've evidenced that happen all around the country in this city. We've seen that with the harm that's happened to specific people, that has happened with the desecration of certain areas and sites. It's a term that I don't use. I'm only using it now to highlight this particular situation, and I will only ever use it to highlight this particular situation. Outside of that, it is not a term that I would use or indulge in any way, shape, or form. Because ultimately, all we're doing is facilitating the idea that it is okay for someone to harm someone else based on what they look like and what they perceive them to be.